everyone, and welcome to The Project. My name is Ianu, and I'm here to let you know what to expect over the next hour. In the next few minutes, our band is going to come up and play a couple of songs. It's not a concert, but something here that we call worship. The songs we choose talk about who God is and what He's done for us. And singing them is a way that we can worship Him. So engage in however you like. Sit, stand, sing along, put your hands up, or maybe for you, it's just to listen and reflect on the lyrics. Nobody is here to judge you, so relax and enjoy the time. Every week, we go to the Bible, and tonight, Pastor Jeff, our lead pastor, will share a message based on its truths and how it applies to our lives today. Afterwards, we'd love to get to know you and hang out, so make sure to visit the Connect booth in the lobby to receive your welcome gift and to ask any questions you might have. Thanks again for joining us. We are so excited you're here. We invite you to stand as our band begins to play.
Hey guys, welcome to The Project tonight. Why don't you go ahead and stand with us here. Let's sing this together. I was running wild for the love of the chase. I've been up and down and all over the place. Wasting all my days and nights, never feeling satisfied. Putting on a smile, I was keeping it fake, but there's no imitating what I found in your grace. All the things I left behind, my shadows now have seen the light. In my head, in my soul, my heart and my all, I know that never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Never am I ever getting over living with you. Nothing will change it. All I can say is never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Got a million reasons why I can't be the same. You got me looking forward, never turning my gaze. Forever, God, it's you and I, together till the end of time. In my head, in my soul, in my heart, in my all, I know that I know, never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Never am I ever getting over living with you. Nothing will change it. All I can say is never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Your love is patient, love is kind. Your love is never hard to find. Forever I'm yours and you're mine. Alright, oh, never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Never am I ever getting over living with you. Nothing will change it. All I can say is never have I ever found a love so good, so good. Never have I ever known. Never have I ever known. Together, caught up
in something that I've never felt. This love, it's one in a million. Like heart, tried everything to fill it up. With one touch, I'm finally living. Your love kickstarted my heart. Electricity sparking something new in me. Wilder than all of my dreams. You are the only one for me. swept up, I'm caught in the free fall. Set right, you and I realigned. It's never ending. Your love keeps starting my heart. Electricity sparking something new in me. Wilder than all of my dreams. You are the only one for me.
This is Lisa, that's Emily, and that's Jay. Glad that you guys decided to be here with us tonight. Also just want to say hey to everyone who's watching online right now. We're glad that you guys are tuning in from home as well. But you guys can go ahead and take a seat here, and John and Amanda are just going to have a couple of announcements for
you. Is that us? I don't know. Hi guys, welcome to the project. Ooh, that hurts. Maybe I'll just yell at you. Oh, there we go. Welcome, that's nice. Hi guys, my name is Amanda. I'm one of the pastors here. I'm John. Okay, you don't get to talk. This is John. We're really happy he's here.
Are we good?
There we go.
Oh, there we are.
There
Sweet.
we go.
I'm John. Hey guys.
There's an on button. It's good.
It happened again. Again, it's fine. So one of the biggest things that we find here at the project is just getting connected with people. I have a lot of people ask that questions, and it's definitely a big value that we have here just at the project. And so one of the best ways to get connected is actually to join a small group. And so we have kind of an all year round small group going on. We have two of them, pro sports, but specifically tonight we're going to be looking at just our climbing crew. And so they meet on Monday nights at Blocks Indoor Bouldering. It's for all skill levels, so if you want to show up, it'll be great. Just send an email to climbing@hopecity.ca. And we'll see you there.
Okay.
David, and I choose Gelato.
Have you ever had a dream that you could do anything?
I'm Connor McDavid, and I choose Gelato.
So that was special.
Yeah, that was something else.
Guys, did you get some candy? Yeah?
Yeah, you did.
You know what? If you get into church, make sure to get some candy. Especially,
Always,
the
always.
aisles are full. So yes, feel free to grab
honestly,
that
feel free to
candy,
mix it up.
okay?
Yep.
Call dibs. Don't be humble, just grab it. Take it all.
Grab it. Commit.
I love that. Okay, guys, well, we're gonna give you a second to pick up the candy because there's a lot. Take it home, stuff your pockets, absolutely.
Just don't trip on them on the way out. That's important.
Yeah, take it all. There's gonna be more candy afterwards.
True.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that. All right, this is hard to transition, but we're gonna do it. We're happy you guys are here. Jeff is continuing our series tonight, but before then, check out this video.
There's a lot of candy up here. I don't know how throwing candy into the crowd ended up with it being absolutely everywhere. Did everyone see that the awkward security guard Easter bunny? Like, what a strange blend of characters. It's like, what am I gonna be for Halloween this year? I know I'll be a security guard because I want authority, but also I love animals, so I'm gonna be an Easter bunny as well. Here, I'll throw a couple more of these into the crowd. If you can catch them, don't get hit by them. As I just smoked someone in the nose with a Twix. It's the worst possible candy you get hit with in the face. Don't ask me how I know. A Twix to the head is never good. A Twix in any situation is never good, frankly. Like, let's do a little bit of a quick poll here. Like, are we Twix? Who likes Twix? Hand up, give a little shout for Twix. Yeah, there we go. Wow, we're a Twix group. Okay, we'll have to work on that. But what about like more kid-friendly, like Smarties? No, just like one. I got 2 yeahs. Like, yeah, Smarties. I love Smarties. Coffee Crisp, anybody? Okay, here's the big one. Tootsie Rolls. Really? Honestly, when I got Tootsie Rolls when I was a kid, when I go trick-or-treating, you get like a Tootsie Roll. Like, you might as well have gotten a ribbon candy. Or like one of those weird like strawberries that only your grandma got. And you're like, never seen them in stores, but your grandma had like a Costco pallet of them somewhere in her basement, apparently. Like, all right, grandma's stocking up on this horrible candy, but I'd still eat it because candy's candy, right? So I want to talk to you today about Jesus. Big shock. You're at church and the pastor wants to talk about Jesus. But we're continuing our series and we're moving into the phase of it, Jesus is, and looking into some of the harder questions around the Christian faith and specifically about Jesus. And so the fact is that there's a lot of different perspectives on Jesus out there. He's polarizing in a lot of ways, but there's some things that we can actually agree on. So I want to start in the book of Matthew. This is the first book of the New Testament. It's a document by a guy named Matthew who actually lived and followed Jesus firsthand and had firsthand accounts on him. And we see in Matthew chapter 16, it starts off well into Jesus' life. He's been hanging out with these disciples for a while. And in Matthew 16, 13 to 15, it says this: when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" They replied, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say I am?" Simon Peter, one of the disciples, said, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Who do you say I am? It's a really simple question. But it's a simple question that will drastically alter the trajectory and the course of your life based on how you answer that. Whether you choose to believe in a Jesus-based life and subscribe to that Jesus-based life, whether you're a Christian or you're not, how you answer that question, every human being that's ever lived and will live, including us today, it will drastically alter the way you live your life. Your friend groups, the friends you choose, the friends you're friends with, you can't choose your family, but how you interact with your family, your work situations, the decisions you make in your life will be drastically altered. Through history, this question and the way people answer it has changed entire societies. It's changed entire people groups and cultures based on the question, who do you say Jesus is? It changes absolutely everything. So let me ask you personally today, who do you say Jesus is? Is it a man? Is Jesus a man? Is he a myth? Is he made up? Is Jesus a lie? Is he just a good teacher? Or is he, as the Christian belief says, is he God? C.S. Lewis, the popular author and theologian, he actually put it this way, and he has a chunk of a book that I really enjoy how he approaches it, and he gives us a couple of options here. There's really only three options we're faced with when we look at Jesus' life and the claims that he made, and it's this. He is either a liar, he's either Lord, or he's a lunatic. So let me just read what C.S. Lewis has to say here. I am trying here to prevent anyone saying the really foolish thing that people often say about him. I am ready to accept Jesus as a great moral teacher, but I don't accept his claim to be God. That is the one thing we must not say. A man who was merely a man and said the sorts of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic on the level with the man who says he is a poached egg, which isn't like my first crazy person example, but that's what he's going with. Someone who says he's a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell. You must make your choice. Either this man was and is the Son of God, or else a madman or something worse. You can shut him up for a fool, you can spit at him and kill him as a demon, or you can fall at his feet and call him Lord and God. But let us not come with any patronizing nonsense about his being a great human teacher. He has not left that open to us. He did not intend to. Now it seems to me obvious that he was neither a lunatic nor a fiend, and consequently, however strange or terrifying or unlikely it may seem, I have accepted the view that he was and is God. C.S. Lewis was a skeptic. He hated the idea of religion, hated the idea of Jesus, but he came to belief, and this is how he kind of processed it in his own mind. No matter who you think Jesus is, he is one of the most important figures and centralized figures in the history of humanity, especially in the last 2,000 years. So what are some examples of this? Well, historically, if you actually look, Jesus plays a significant role and is the central theme in how we tell time. Anything after the year of Jesus' birth is called AD. You've probably heard we're living in the year 2021 AD. Anything before that is BC, before Christ. So that doesn't prove anything. That's just saying that there is a significant impact on our society, and not just in North America, but around the world, that this is a person, this is a being, this is something that happened that clearly made an impact, because we have actually decided to measure time by the impact of this person, this one singular person's life. So let's go through some of the questions. Let's go through some of the things that we don't normally talk about in church, because they may not be deeply theological, maybe at first glance, but they're pretty important to talk about. Maybe some questions that you're thinking about with Jesus. First of all, what did Jesus look like? Right? Let's get this out of the way. Jesus was not 6'3". Jesus did not have blue eyes. He didn't have chiseled jaw. He wasn't jacked out of his mind. He didn't have blonde hair. He wasn't that type of person, but you see that all the time, right? This isn't the picture that we see of Jesus in North America. And, that's a very North American perspective. And yes, it is an inherently ethnocentric view and perspective and visualization. But just to be honest with you, if you look around the world, I know if you go to Korea or Japan or all around the world, the pictures and the statues of Jesus often reflect the common look of the people group in that area. So that's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter so much to me, but let's get down to who Jesus actually was and what he looked like. First of all, there was nothing really all that impressive about Jesus. We see this in Scripture. That picture of Jesus that looks like he's on the cover of a romance novel, flowing blonde hair and tall and handsome. That wasn't what Jesus would have looked like at all. And we know that even just from the Bible. There's an entire book of the Bible called Isaiah in the Old Testament, which is prophecies, and it's talking about what's coming. Know this about the Bible. The whole New Testament is very much predicting and pointing towards Jesus. It may be indirect at times, but everything, the more you study it, it's like a funnel moving everything towards the birth of Jesus and continuing on the work of God through his church today. Isaiah was a prophet, and there's an entire chapter called Isaiah, in Isaiah 53. And in Isaiah 53, if you read this, I encourage you, write it down, read it when you get home. It's a good chunk, but it's just this foretelling. This was written 700 years before Jesus was born, talking about everything Jesus would do. And this is part of the Jewish scriptures. It was telling that this Messiah, this chosen one to come and make things right with the world, was going to come. And it very, very accurately depicts what happens in Jesus' life. But I want to look at one part of Isaiah 53, and it's in chapter 2. It says this: "My servant grew up in the Lord's presence like a tender green shoot, like a root in dry ground. There was nothing beautiful or majestic about his appearance, nothing to attract us to him." There was nothing special. Like if you were walking down the road, Jesus would have looked like the average guy in the culture at that time. It's not like you do a double take. It's not like, yo, that guy looks like the Messiah. That guy looks like a leader over there. That's the guy we'd want to follow. He was just an average looking guy. But what do we know about him? We do know some things just based off of where he lived, and some of them would be that he would have actually had dark skin. He was a Mediterranean Jew, which means he would have had olive skin. He would have spoken Aramaic, would have been his native language, but he also would have known a good chunk of Hebrew and Greek, because to do business in that region at the time, Greek and Hebrew would have been a big part of his life. He would have been under 6 feet tall, so he wasn't overly tall. He didn't stand out in a crowd. He didn't even see over the crowd, to be honest. There was nothing overly impressive about his appearance at all. In fact, actually, I found it interesting, and we'll never know exactly what Jesus looked like while we're on Earth, but the science, who knows how they did this exactly, but regionally and just in the area and kind of how he generally, by looking at where he lived and what people at that time would have looked like from what we know, science has used computers to generate a picture of what they think Jesus would have looked like. We're going to throw that up on the board here. Not me. Didn't look like me. Well, maybe that will show up at some point. But what looks like just a regular brown-skinned guy. And that is just a normal guy. Like these pictures, that whether they show up on the screen or not, they're very, very average, and just like, yeah, there's nothing overly impressive. There we go. That's kind of a weird cross. He didn't look like that. Jesus did not have a Jesus is face tattoo. That's how he looked like. But generally, that you get the kind of the general theme of that. You can Google it right now. Go to Google image search and just put computer-generated vision of Jesus. And you'll probably get some weird pictures of like Jesus' face burned into a pancake or something like that. That was most of what those were. But then more often you see this picture of Jesus that is, like I said, flowing hair, blue eyes, blonde hair, perfect chiseled jaw. It looks like something that you might see on a candle at your religious aunt's house, right? That's not what he looked like. He looked like just an average Joe, average Jesus from the Mediterranean region of the Middle East. And that was just very average. He wasn't anything that you would have seen and stood out and picked to be the Son of God. But he did come to earth. God came to earth, 100% man, 100% God, which is, I understand the math is complicated in that, but he was God who came to earth. And I think that a misconception people can have is that Jesus isn't just some dude, some average guy that was walking around and had a religious experience and God imparted some wisdom or some element of himself into him and he became God, like anybody could have had it happen. He's not Spider-Man that got bit by, a holy spider and became God and had powers. He's not a Marvel character or an X-Man. He was God who intentionally and strategically came to earth for a reason and humbled himself from his position of power and said, I'm going to be in a position that compared to what I deserve is actually humiliating. So what am I talking about that? Well, let's look at his childhood, because he would have had a childhood. If you know the Christmas story, Jesus came to earth and Jesus was a baby. He was born in a manger. That's where all the Christmas songs come from. Born in a manger. and he's a baby. Well, think about all the things that babies have to go. Think about God in heaven coming down and experiencing the human experience as a baby. Would have had to have his diapers changed, would have gone through all these different awkward scenarios. Even just think about growing up. God experienced every awkward thing that happens between childhood and into your teenage years. Talk about awkward, right? He would have gone through the awkward teenage puberty years, like would have had to have all those experiences. That's a real part of Jesus' life. He was a baby. He experienced all those things. But not even just that. Like, think about all of the human experiences that Jesus would have gone through. He would have gotten sick. He could have eaten bad fish from the market and gotten really ill. Like, he wasn't immune to all of the, common hardships that will happen to us as human beings. And actually, it goes a lot deeper than that, because the next thing I want to talk about is he actually, from what we can tell, grew up in poverty. God in heaven came to earth to live the life, to experience being a baby, and actually lived in poverty. How do we know that? Well, we don't know a lot about Jesus' life between his birth and then the next time we kind of see him is at around the age of 12. But one thing that we do know is that there's a recording that after Jesus was born, it was common to go to the temple and offer a sacrifice to God. So the common thing that you would sacrifice is a goat, right? Like a lamb. And those, I'm not in the market very often, but lambs are not cheap, especially back then. They had some value to them. And what we see is that all that Jesus' parents, his adopted dad, Joseph, and his mom, Mary, all that they could bring was 2 turtle doves, which, is from the Christmas song. But it's really just a nice way of saying a dirty couple of pigeons. Like, they weren't nice. Turtle doves are like bringing pigeons. You're supposed to bring, I don't know what the rankings are of animals as far as what the value is, but I think a sheep or a lamb is way better than a couple of pigeons. Pigeons are probably on the lower end of things. And what this shows us is that they couldn't afford anything more, and that they would have come from pretty humble backgrounds. They wouldn't have had much money. They grew up in a very impoverished setting. And we can actually figure this out more from where Jesus was from. He's often, if you see in the Bible, he's called Jesus of Nazareth. And to me, just commonly, we don't know a lot about the geopolitical understandings of the region at the time, but Nazareth was not a very affluent place. If you came from Nazareth, if you were announced as Jesus from Nazareth, there's immediately implications and visions of poverty, of brokenness, of being poor and not having much. They were seen as a lesser community. It was literally the biblical equivalent of coming from the wrong side of the tracks. And they would have been told that. They would have known that. There wasn't very much kindness to the society. And if you were from Nazareth, you were seen as less than. He would have felt the shame of that at times, the social shame. He would have felt the occasional oppression of what comes from that, of being seen as less than because of where he came from. It doesn't sound like what I would choose if I was God. Sounds like he chose a fairly humble scenario here. Another thing that we learn, and this is something I actually came to understand recently, is that most scholars believe Jesus actually lost his adopted dad, Joseph. Because we see Joseph there when he's born, and then when he's 12, 13 years old again. And then Joseph disappears from the narrative. And it wouldn't have been uncommon, especially for someone at that time, there wasn't great Medicare around there. And many scholars believe that Joseph probably died. He got sick or had an accident or something, and Joseph died. Now, doesn't say in the Bible, just being totally clear, that Joseph died. Those words don't come in, and Jesus' dad, Joseph, died. But we can kind of come to this understanding that Joseph is gone. And with that being true, we would understand that Jesus experienced incredible loss in his childhood. He would have felt the pain of losing a parent, of losing his adopted parent, of losing a loved one so close to him. And so why do I say this? Why do I share these things about Jesus? It's because often Jesus is seen as, and Christianity is seen as this like top privileged religion. Privileged people just kind of trend towards it. But the fact is that Jesus experienced suffering. Jesus experienced pain. Jesus experienced the embarrassment of probably wetting his pants as a kid. Like, these things happened. He lived the full human experience. God came, humbled himself from his throne in heaven, and put himself down a million notches to live the human experience, to live the experience that you and I have, because he wanted to be closer to us, and he had a greater purpose. But I want you to know this isn't the primary point of what I'm talking about tonight, but I want you to know that if you're struggling, if you've been through any pain, any loss, if you've been struggling through anything, Jesus knows your pain. Jesus knows your struggle because Jesus has experienced the struggle. If you come from a meek background, from poverty, from the wrong side of the tracks, Jesus has been there. He came and he experienced that. If you've experienced significant loss in your life, I'm telling you, Jesus is the answer. Not just because I have to say that, but because he's the God who controls the universe and loves you, but also he came and he experienced those same emotions, those same feelings. Jesus knows your struggle because Jesus has experienced struggle. He's not some God on a distant planet who's watching us laughing at our suffering. Jesus is up there and he knows what we've been through. He's lived through what we've been through. Maybe not exact circumstances, but he's understood struggle. He put himself in the line of fire because he wanted to be closer to us. God wanted relationship with us, so he came in the form of a human. So before we can make the decision of who is Jesus and who do we say Jesus is, we should probably look at what did Jesus say about himself. If Jesus was like, hey, you got the wrong guy, not God, probably should end right there, right? Pack it up, go home, no point. But what did Jesus actually say? So let's take a look actually at history here. If you've read the Old Testament at all, there's a book in the first half of the Bible called Exodus. It's the second book of the Bible. Captures a story of God's people, the Israelites, who are under oppression in Egypt, and they're slaves, and they're being mistreated and abused. And there's actually this rumor that there's going to be this person who's going to rise up and overthrow Pharaoh. So he's just going to Pharaoh decides he's going to kill all the babies, all the firstborn kids, and that's how he's going to deal with this problem, which is morbid and horrible. But Moses' mom is like, Kate, let's put this baby in a basket. We'll just, like, last resort, they're coming to kill my kid. And she puts her son Moses in a basket, puts him in the river flows down, and to Moses' luck, he ends up at the palace, and by a whole array of chances and improbable things happening, he ends up being raised as royalty in the palace. That's rags to riches if I've ever heard it, right? And so he's living in this very privileged, crazy life, and eventually kind of comes to term with who he is and ends up lashing out at some other Egyptian people that are mistreating the Israelites, and he's exposed, so he runs away. And that's where we find him. He's running away, and he's hiding from his problems, and he's out working as a shepherd. He's hanging out. He got married out in the desert in the middle of nowhere, and he comes across a burning tree or a burning bush. And this is God presenting himself as this bush or this tree that is on fire but isn't combusting, like it's not burning up. It's just consistently burning. And it calls out to him and basically tells him, hey man, you got to go home. You got to go save the Israelites, save your people, save my people, save them from persecution, save them from slavery. And Moses doesn't want to do it. You can check that out for the full story in Exodus. But where I want to go is he kind of comes to terms with it. And Moses says this in Exodus 3:13-14. It says, Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you. Now, that's not the first name I would have chosen, right? I am. And it seems kind of like a random thing to say. There is some cultural and background to that as to why God would say that. But what I want to focus on is that that's really the first time God had exposed his name or given himself something for these people to call him. And this name became incredibly revered. This is God's name. This is holy. And the different ways they would even write this name in the Hebrew, they would remove letters from God's name. You couldn't speak his name because it was so holy, so revered. They would remove one letter so it wasn't technically, it's kind of funny when you think about it, that they would remove one letter and that was reverence, but it was out of worship and reverence for God. And so I am became a major trigger point in a good way for them to know, hey, that is who God is. that they know the moment they hear I am, that is a significant name, that is everything. Nobody else would call themselves that. That is a violation, that is blasphemy. Nobody but God can be called I am. So in comes Jesus. And we find him in a story in John. The book of John is another one of the first 4 books of the New Testament, first-hand account from a guy named John. And he had literally just said the words in front of these religious teachers, these Pharisees, these people that he kind of came to correct, who were very legalistic and trying to be rule-driven in everything they did, to the point where it was pushing people away from what God actually had for them. And Jesus is countering that, and they're already frustrated with Jesus. And he had just said the words, "Whoever obeys my words will never see death." It's a pretty bold statement. If you don't believe Jesus is God, that's totally blasphemous and preposterous. But he's making a claim within that I'm God. And we see from there in John 8:52-59, and it says this. At this they exclaimed, "Now we know that you are demon-possessed. Abraham died and so did the prophets, yet you say that whoever obeys your word will never taste death. Are you greater than our father Abraham? He died and so did the prophets. Who do you think you are?" And Jesus replied, "If I glorify myself, my glory means nothing. My Father, whom you claim as your God, is the one who glorifies me. Though you do not know him, I know him. If I said I did not, I would be a liar like you. But I do know him and obey his word. Your father Abraham rejoiced at the thought of seeing my day. He saw it and was glad." They said, "You're not yet 50 years old, and you have seen Abraham." "Very truly, I tell you," Jesus answered, "before Abraham was born, I am." At this, they picked up stones to stone him, kill him. But Jesus hid himself and slipped away from the temple grounds. Jesus is making a massive statement here. It seems subtle. He said, "Before Abraham, I am." No, he's saying, "I am." Exclamation point. Full stop. I'm making a bold statement here. I am being as clear as possible to you religious teachers. I am. This would have just set off fireworks. That's a trigger for these Pharisees because that is such a revered statement. That's a violation. That's blasphemy. You can't say that. But Jesus is making no mistake about it. He is saying, I am God. I am God incarnate, 100% man, 100% God who came to earth. I am the Lord God. He's not making any mistake. And just as C.S. Lewis says, he doesn't give us any other option when he makes this decision. And he continues to make these statements throughout Scripture. I'll give you a couple. In John chapter 10, verse 31, he says, I am the Son of God. John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Which is like a fundamental statement to Christianity. Jesus is the only way to God because he is God. There is no other way to God because he is God. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Mark 14:61-62 says, the high priest asked him, are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? I am, Jesus says. And this isn't an I am statement, but it really removes all doubt. We see in John 14:9, he says, anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. Jesus clearly says that he is God. He makes no mistake about it. He gives no room for anything else. I am God. And that really changes how we approach this. These claims triggered these religious leaders. Like they were really controlling, manipulative. They were taking the rules or the guidelines that were there for like just kind of like guidelines for freedom for people. There were some rules. Like it's not like there's no rules in Christianity, but they're good and they actually open doors to freedom. They're not meant to be oppressive. They're meant for our own good. They're guidelines to help us to live the best life we can, to live life to the fullest in relationship with God. But they were taking these things and abusing them and taking advantage of people's lives. And Jesus steps in and they're trying to use words and be articulate and trap him in conversation. And he keeps just beating them at their own game. And they decide, man, we can't let this keep happening. He's saying things like, I am God. We need to take care of this because this is going to have us lose control. We won't be able to manipulate people anymore. We have to be able to control these people. So they put a plot in order. And this is the Easter story. This is the cross. They decide to have him unjustly murdered, to have him put to death on a cross, a torture device, the most horrible way that you could die. Because Jesus was a threat to them. They had God in front of them and they couldn't even see it. They spent their whole life seeking God, and he stood in front of them. He said it to their face. He was right there, and they missed it. They could have fallen at the feet and had a conversation and relationship with God himself, and they missed their chance. So they had him arrested, they had him crucified, and he died. He didn't have to. The Bible shows us that the cost of our sin is death, is separation from God. If we didn't sin, we would never have to die, but we're born with that. It's a perennial thing that's inherent to us, and we, for that reason, should be distant from God. But because Jesus died on the cross, because Jesus didn't have to die, because he never sinned, he paid that debt for us, and he moves into that space for us. He bridges that gap. He did it sacrificially for us. But as you know, the story of Jesus doesn't end there. Or maybe you don't. 3 days later, the Bible says Jesus rose again. He defeated death, and he came back from the grave. And everyone would have known this. This was like a common thing that was obviously predicted. If you look at Isaiah, if you look at all these former prophecies, it was going to be this God or the Messiah would raise again. And he actually predicted it himself. He said, I will rise again from the dead after I die. This was a known thing. And if this happened, if even the perception of this happened, this would have been catastrophic to the Pharisees. It would have been chaotic. They could never let this happen. So wouldn't it make sense that the disciples could have stolen his body? Kind of a common cynical perspective of it, right? Well, we don't know. We didn't have like closed circuit security cameras on the tomb. He was put behind a big rock in a tomb. And we don't see that, but the fact is it would be incredibly unlikely. Incredibly unlikely, because it's not like there was one or two. Have you ever been to like an Easter play? There's like one or two guards sitting there in front, like two guys with a spear. No. What this was a Roman guard with 16 trained killers. They didn't want this to get out because it would get out of control. This thing could grow. They didn't want anyone to steal the body. There were 16 trained killers. And they would not have wanted to mess up, because if you let somebody steal the body, that you're probably not going to have a very good rest of your life. It'd be probably pretty short, especially by what the Roman standards were back then. They had every reason to act accordingly and to not let this thing happen. It wouldn't have made sense. It doesn't make sense at all. And then the conversation goes to, could the Roman guard have actually taken the body? Well, that doesn't make any sense at all. But let me tell you about this. If the disciples were to steal the body, that would be like us right now storming Area 51. If I'm like, hey guys, let's get in the van, all of us, and let's just run at it, we're gonna take it. We're storming Parliament right now. How far would we get? That would be like 11 disciples taking down like 16 Navy SEALs. Impossible. Did not happen. I just cannot fathom a scenario where that makes sense. The next thing is this. When you're trying to come up with a conspiracy theory, if you think that him rising from the dead is a conspiracy theory, there's a major flaw in that story, and that's this. The first two people to see Jesus rise from the dead, of the over 500 people that saw him on 12 different occasions, were women. And today, that'd be not a big deal. That would make perfect sense. But if you're trying to create a conspiracy theory, you would want to have the most credible people in society. Society back then was pretty sexist. In fact, women weren't allowed to give testimony in court. They didn't have that right. And so why would you create this false narrative that you're trying to give validity to by showing and saying that Jesus first showed himself risen from the dead to two people that actually had no credibility within that society? Now, I actually know and believe that Jesus was making a statement of equality in that Jesus was actually showing himself to women because he saw them as equals, and there was a bit of a statement there. But if you're trying to create a conspiracy theory, if you're trying to create some false narrative, you're not going to choose that in that culture at that time. So I cannot see that being a part of the conversation. So here's where the rubber meets the road. Did Jesus rise from the dead? Because if Jesus didn't rise from the dead and he stays in the grave, we have nowhere to go with this. The power in Jesus Christ, the reason that we celebrate Jesus is that not that he died, but that he overcame death, that he controls the universe, that he didn't just do miracles, he didn't just do things when he walked on the earth. He overcame the ultimate ending, the thing that we all will be subjective to at some point, the thing that we all cannot control no matter how hard we try, and that is death. Jesus rose from the dead. So you can say that it's not true, Jesus is a liar, he's fake, it's a conspiracy theory. Let your cynicism declare that he faked his death or that the evidence would make it seem like there's a lot of garbage and baloney that's going on in this conversation. You can say he's a lunatic who believed he was God and just really started an overgrown cult. You can believe that. I can't just prove you wrong right now by showing you some information or a chart or something like that. Or you can believe that he was who he claimed to be, who he said he was countless times, who he proved when he rose from the dead to over 500 people, 12 different occasions. You can prove that people saw him, that there's accounts of that. So if he did that, that changes everything. And you have to make that decision for yourself. You can either believe that he's a liar, a lunatic, or you can believe he is God who died for you, who loves you, who was tortured for you, who stepped into the gap, who forgives you from your sins, that no matter what you've ever done in your life, that if you choose to follow him, to believe in what he did on the cross, that he rose again afterwards, that you can have eternal life with God, that you don't have to take the hell that you deserve, but you can have the eternal life with God that we all have available to us. And the fact is, no matter what we decide about Jesus, no matter what our preference would be about Jesus, the fact is, like C.S. Lewis said, he doesn't give us any other option with what he says. He doesn't give us any other option. We have to take what he says and either reject it or believe it. And I can't stop thinking about these Pharisees. Like I said, they had God right in front of them. They had God standing right in front of them, and they missed it. They missed their chance. They missed their opportunity. They were looking for something else, and because they were looking everywhere but right in front of them, they missed out on the opportunity of a lifetime. Don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. Because God came to earth, was a baby, lived a life that was just very human, went through suffering and pain, and at the end of it died on a cross because he loves you and he wants that relationship with you. Don't miss out on what's right in front of you. And maybe this is something that you grew up with and you've kind of been to church, but it's been a long time, and you're thinking, man, I really need to get back to Jesus. This is your opportunity. Don't miss out on what's right in front of you. Maybe it's your first time here, and it's your first time in church, and you're just hearing about this Jesus thing for the first time you kind of put the pieces together. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Maybe you're online at home, you're watching, and you're like, man, okay, this is my chance. I don't know for sure, but this is starting to make sense a little bit. Don't miss out on Jesus. Because it is the opportunity and it is the answer to the question that will change everything in your life. It will change everything and bring you not just relationship with people through church, but it will bring value and hope in a way that you will never experience in any other way. It's changed my life. It's changed so many people's lives that I know. It is the best decision you can ever make to follow Jesus. And I'm not just saying that because it's my job. I've lived it. I've seen it. This is truth. Jesus is God. Jesus rose again. And Jesus is the best decision you can make in your life. If that's you, we're going to put a slide up on the screen and you can message in. We'd love to, whether you want to follow Jesus for the first time or maybe you just want more information on it, I encourage you to message into there. We'd love to chat with you. But this is something that I don't want you to make a decision on with haste, just without thinking it through. Think deeply. This is the most important decision that you can ever make. The way you answer the question, who do you say Jesus is, will change everything about your life, for better or for worse. Think hard about it. You owe it to yourself. Seek Jesus. Ask for him for wisdom. He will show himself to you. But don't leave here. Don't leave this place without seeking what that means and what that answer is to you. Because you owe it to yourself to explore every option in this. You owe it to yourself because there's too much at stake. You cannot afford to be wrong. Who do you say Jesus is? Let's stand.
fix my eyes on the one true prize. You were there in the beginning, you'll be there in the end.
God, we just thank you. We just thank you tonight. God, you have existed for all of eternity. You know, our minds can't even fathom the fact that you have no beginning and no end. Everything that we know in this life, in this world, has a beginning and an end, and yet you are eternal. You've always existed. And it's so hard for us to wrap our minds around that. But God, we thank you that this eternal, all-powerful, amazing God wants to have a relationship with us. That though you are so massive and you're so great and beyond comprehension, the fact that you are still that person, but at the same time, you're so personal and you care about every little detail of our lives. And we can come to you with any issue, anything that we're dealing with, any pain, any trauma. So God, we thank you for that tonight. And God, I just pray for any person tonight who just feels heavy and they need a sense of peace. They need a sense of hope. Maybe they just feel lost. God, I pray that you would just reveal yourself to them right now, and they would just know that you want to be present in their lives, that you are right there, that you are not far away from them, but you are close, you are near to them, and you want to comfort them, you want to be with them in whatever they're facing right now. God, I pray that they would just, whoever that is tonight, that they would just feel a sense of your peace and your love, maybe for the first time ever. And they would know, God, that you are real and that you are good. God, we just thank you for this time of getting to sing to you like this. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. Awesome. Thanks, guys. You can go ahead and take a seat.
All right, guys. What a good night. Like, we love seeing you guys every week, and just thanks for being here and just spending part of your evening with us. Because like I said, we just love being here with you guys. Like Jeff mentioned earlier in his message, if you're looking for like a next step or just more resources, you can chat with us, or our website is a really, really great place to start. So check that out.
Yeah, and so one of our biggest values, is it on? Is it on? We're good, I think?
I don't know
myself?
anymore.
There
I
we go.
sound
Okay, I
loud.
think so. Yeah, I think we're okay. Okay, so one of our kind of biggest values here at the project is just community, and that's such a big thing. So if you're newer to the project or you brought someone new, there's a Connect booth kind of right by the cafe. I'll be over there. I'd love to connect with you guys, get you guys connected, and you'll receive a welcome gift as well.
Yes, and like John mentioned earlier, one of our small groups that runs all year round is our climbing crew. That's indoor rock climbing. Everyone's welcome. Whether you've climbed before or never, go check it out. They have a lot of fun. It is Monday nights at Blocks, it's called. So make sure to check that out. You can chat with any of us on staff, or you can email them as well. I don't know if their email, oh yeah, it's right there. So you can email them and check it out. So they are meeting tomorrow night.
Sweet. So we actually do have something new going on for you guys that are online. So after the service is over, check out our Instagram live, and we'll have a team there that you guys can connect with, and it'll be a great time. Past that point, the night isn't over yet. So today is Halloween. So we decided to name tonight the Halloweeny roast. Sounds a little bit sketchy, kind of interesting.
It's not.
It's
a real
really
thing.
Not. It's not what you're thinking at all. It is hot dogs. We're having hot dogs, kind of gourmet, like where you got like.
We got toppings, guys. Okay, we're not just talking about like hot dogs with ketchup. We're talking like chili, cheese, Doritos, lots of sauerkraut. I think that's gross.
I don't know. I've never used
Peppers.
sauerkraut. We'll see. We got peppers.
So,
bunch of stuff.
and candy. So hang out. We got lots of hot dogs. Head outside. We'll see you guys out there.